Who would be a Wolves fan, eh?
On goes ball. Big ball might yet win it here for Wolves. Flash in the shot. What a goal!
Hello, and welcome to today's episode of Wolves Fancast. You thought you got rid of us after the last game of the season, but no. We are here because we still have lots to talk about, lots to review. Joining me today, I've got Stu and Tom. Are you both excited for today's episode?
Buzzing, mate. Buzzing.
Now, I was going to say, I am terrified of this. So hello to anyone who's watching on YouTube right now or Facebook or even Twitter. Basically, we've done it kind of a couple of times now where we've kind of done a play review and sort of talked about each place. But no, we are being streamlined now. We are being focused. So we're having our 3-minute play review, guys. So we're going to go through all the Wolves players who have played more than 10 games. So there's a bit of substance to really kind of dive into one of these players, talk about their seasons, give them a mark out of 10 and discuss and sort of say where they'll be next season. So should we keep them? Do we think they're going to go? Should we sell them / release them? Now, I like talking. We've been live for nearly 2 minutes now, and you guys have said about one word. So knowing that and knowing as soon as Stu almost certainly starts talking, if we're going over that 3 minutes, guys, you know me, I'm going to have to cut you off, and this is the only way I could think to cut you off. So if you hear that, the carousel's going to start moving, and we'll go on to the next one. So, shall we get going, guys?
Let's do it. Have you given us more time on Hwang? Because Stu's going to take up all my 3 minutes on Hwang.
I wasn't worried about
held against Hwang. Look, it's trying to kill itself already.
See, I'm not too worried about Hwang because we already talk about it every week being crap.
Yeah.
So, although I say we will get started. I did find the statement or whatever that Bruno Lage sent out saying, "Oh, on my birthday, he gave me cookies." I'm like, that explains a lot, doesn't it? Explains a lot. Absolute Ted Lasso approach. So yeah, if you're watching live on YouTube, as Dina says, I have been at work all day, so I have gone formal. Stu will probably test that I dressed like this on like a Saturday, to be honest. So yeah.
If anyone wants to leave little messages saying that I'm their favourite, then please do as well.
Yeah, hasn't stopped talking about that on the group, just so everyone knows.
Yes, he has not. I'm pretty sure he's changed like his name. Like, do you remember like back in the day on Facebook where you'd have like the middle name thing? Stu's is now Best Fancastian or whatever it was.
That's it.
I remember for a long time I wasn't even referred to as Stu for this when I first started. I was SK. Remember?
You were still SK Hall for.
Yeah, I kept it like I was some kind of thespian.
And not for any other reason.
No, of course.
No. We'll right. Let's get cracking, guys. Let's see how quickly I can actually keep up and if my stopwatch is working. So first off, we're going to start with Wolves Player of the Season. It's Jose Sarr. I mean, have we had a better signing under Fosun, you could argue, in terms of value for money?
Wait, 6.8 million. It's absolutely ridiculous. And you say better signing for value. I think better signing at all. Yeah, he's probably the best. Well, he is the best Wolves keeper I've ever seen us have. I mean, you take Matt Murray, had his kicking issues, superb everywhere else. Jose Sarr's got everything and more, and it's exactly what we're crying out for and what we expected. Well, what I expected a long time ago when I suggested it. But even I have got to admit he's been incredible.
Yeah, I was worried when Rui left, to be honest. I love Rui, I did. He had his faults. He's a line keeper, he had his faults, but I couldn't have been more wrong. I mean, what a signing. His handling is unbelievable. Have we seen him drop a ball once this season? It comes for a cross, it doesn't matter how high it is, he gathers it. And okay, yes, he can be a little, I wouldn't say erratic, but he's a sweeper keeper, so you've got to accept that when he comes out, he's going to be flying out, and he's cost us a few penalties, but that's a minor blip on what's been an unbelievable season. And I think I don't know when the team of the season comes out, the official one, but I'll be annoyed if he's not number one.
I'll say it'll be incredibly frustrating to see like Alisson there instead of him when like literally all kind of major goalkeeping metrics, he leads in, even for a bang on mid-table club as well, 11 clean sheets. He is literally the reason Wolves finished the position they did compared to last season. And you say like he doesn't seem to make silly mistakes. He doesn't seem to fumble the ball often, and he seems like a good guy to have around the dressing room as well, which, we've all talked about Ruddy the last couple of days is something that I think is quite important for the club as well.
Yeah. And it was one of the things that I was worried about when he came in. I did say at the start of the season, I said, he will be brilliant, but expect the odd cock up here and there. And there's been a handful, maybe, or when he's tried to dribble on his line and stuff and he's been caught out, but not to the extent of that I expected him to do. So, yeah.
Nine goals. He saved us. That's mad.
Yeah.
But I guarantee that Edison and Alisson, could probably combine to nowhere near that. He's won us the most points. Out of any player we've had, and that's all that matters.
I mean, I'm assuming we're all saying keep, so I think we can sort of write that off. There's no kind of discussion about whether we think he'll go. I think he's pretty set to be Wolves number one next year. Right, what are we going to give him out of 10, guys? Because I've gone straight down for a 9. And the only thing that's let him down is a couple of those penalty things.
I'd agree.
Yeah.
I think he was, as everyone else did in the last 3 months, he wasn't as good as he was up until that point. There was that start of the season, he was absolutely world class. He was the best keeper anywhere. And then he's kind of, as these things naturally do, he's kind of tailed off a little bit. But yeah, like Tom said, for handling everything else, 9 out of 10. Undisputed player of the season.
Yeah, we've done it right, and we've done it pretty much bang in 3 minutes as well. It's a great start. Next one, I think it's going to be more of a discussion with, though. It's Marcal. Now, I've never been his biggest fan, to be honest. I don't see what he brings necessarily to the team that someone like Ait-Nouri couldn't do. But he has quietly been a very proficient player for Wolves this season, even though he's not had lots of the limelight. Tom, what have you made of Marcal's season?
I remember he had a really good start. I remember the first few games. That bloody hell, where's he been? Solid, steady-ish. I actually think he puts a good ball in. Actually, I mean, obviously he's nowhere near as attacking as the others. He can't get up and down anywhere near as much. But I actually think his crossing is actually half decent. It's probably as good as Ait-Nouri, if not better. To be honest, he just obviously doesn't get the percentages because he can't get up and down as much. But I mean, it's an achievement in itself that he's in the category of more than 10 games, isn't it?
Well, yeah. I mean, the fact that he's 18 appearances in total and 6 clean sheets. It's a decent enough record. To be honest, I don't know what he made last season, but it felt like he made about 5 appearances all season.
I think he's more left back than a left wing back, isn't he? I think it didn't probably quite suit him very much. And when at Lyon, it was always said that he was better as a left centre half. I mean, I don't think he could have done that in the Premier League, but left back more than a left wing back, just because he hasn't quite got the legs.
Yeah, Stu, how about you?
Yeah, I know we had times on here where we absolutely slated him because he was being picked instead of Ait-Nouri, but he very rarely let us down, really. There was a couple of times where he got caught out, but you expect that with his age and everything. And like Tom said, he's a proper left back in a 4-4-2 kind of style rather than a wing back because of his age, because of his pace that he hasn't really got much. But yeah, he's a solid 6.5 out of 10 when we get to that in a minute. But that's where I'd go with, because he's just he didn't do anything wrong really for me, but he wasn't spectacular either.
That's literally, I couldn't quite decide whether I should put him down for a 6 or a 7. I was like, 6 feels too harsh, 7 feels too good. So I think 6.5 is literally perfect for him, isn't it? Because he's not massively let us down. Has he made huge contributions? Has he made any real kind of headlines in a Wolves shirt? Not really. But at the same time, he's not been like certain other players we might talk about later, I guess. So, Stu, are you going 6.5 for him as well?
Yeah, 6.5.
Tom?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, with that, obviously, yeah. There's no. I don't think anyone's going to be, too good that he's leaving. It's naturally time for him to move on. Now we've got good cover on that side now that Jonny's back, and then you've got people like Ryan Giles potentially as well. I think there's no arguments.
Yeah, and Hugo and V and 23 as well.
He looks
it as well,
good.
Isn't he?
He looks a player. Yeah.
Right. Next up, we have Captain Codes. Now, I don't quite know where to start with him, to be honest. So I'm going to let you two talk because I could probably ramble on for about 10 minutes on the difficulties with Coady. Stu, overall in his seasons, first of all, because he has had good spells, and I think it would be wrong of us not to say so.
Yeah, when he's had good spells, he's been really good. I mean, he's probably played his best football for us when he's been good. When he's had his downtime, he has been really poor. But again, not as much as last season. And it was always the worry coming into the start of this season, wasn't it? Going with the same with Coady and Say still at the back in the back three, 4 years in, and would they be able to cope? But I thought he was fine. I know we were all clambering for a back four next year. I wouldn't be against giving him a chance at it if we got someone, or even with Kilman. It's never been really tried here, and just because we don't think he can, we don't know. And obviously he's passing, and he hasn't. The long balls from the Nuno era have gone this season for him and Neves that we've come to after. So you take that away from his game, and judging him as a defender. I know we've already said it that Sarr saved us 9 goals already this season, and so that says everything about the defence as a whole. But again, he's a solid club captain. I don't think he's been spectacular if you take the whole season as its massive point of work.
Yeah, I think he's been fine. I think generally he's played pretty well. Again, like the rest of them, they've dipped a little bit recently. But yeah, like he's been. The problem we've got is I think Bruno's going to want to play. If it hits Bruno, we'll come on to that. If he wants to play 4 at the back and a high line like he has done, I think we've got a problem because neither him and Kilman have got any pace, and that was exposed for bloody Norwich. So a better team would absolutely thrape us for that. So it's a real tricky one. But I don't think you can as a captain he's incredible. I absolutely love the bloke. He's the perfect captain that you can see. The players love him. The influence he has on everyone, the crowd love him. The passion he shows. And okay, he's got 4 goals. Christ, he's one of our highest goal scorers this season. He's a goal threat suddenly. So obviously you've got to take maybe a bit of that into account. Goal at Everton was really good. Chelsea again, he's had some good. Villa, they've all been key goals. So I think that's a part that you can't overlook either.
Would either of you sell him?
No, that'd be a big bid for me.
Last week I said it wouldn't surprise me if he went for someone like Newcastle. But then we are going to be, if everyone else goes as well, we're going to be absolutely decimated from leader point of view.
Agreed.
So
completely agree.
You can't get rid of everyone. Yeah. And for the fee that you'd think you'd get for him, I don't really see the point. Because you're not going to... If you're going to play Kilman and Toti Gomez together in a back 4, which, again, we don't know. It's not been tried. He still has to be around the place for a bit of continuity. You can't just get rid of all your leaders at once. Tell the Conservatives, they could fuck off and no one would care. But, keep. 100% keep.
Okay. Right. And quickly, out of 10 for the season.
7.
I was going to say 7 as well. taking the leadership into account as well as his performances, all being told, it's a solid 7.
Yeah, I'm happy with that. I'm going to play this because we've gone. So I feel like I'm going to want to play that if I don't hear it often enough. So next up, hopefully a bit briefer, someone who I genuinely didn't think for a second he played more than 10 games this season, is Jonny. And I mean, 13 games and a couple of goals after being out for basically 2 years. What more can you say from him?
Yeah. He came back like he hadn't been away on the wrong side as well.
Yeah. He's amazed me. I thought he might have been done. I think you might mention it before as well, Stu. I mean, we couldn't guarantee that he was going to be anywhere near the player he was, and he was a bloody good player before he got injured. And it's like he's not been away. Brilliant. And if you put those stats up again, Rich. I mean, they look good. Bloody hell, they look really good, don't they? There's a lot of green on there.
I was going to say, well, we'll have Semedo come up in a second, and his attacking stacks aren't as good as Jonny's, which surprised me. But that's because Semedo hasn't scored any goals. But yeah, it was like he's never been away, and I think it's going to ask some. I think having 3 senior wing backs in Ait-Nouri, Jonny, and Semedo next year, all being well, I think gives us a really good option. Because Jonny can compete obviously for either of those positions, and there is no drop in quality from those 3 players, in my opinion.
It's our strongest position. It's our strongest area of our team, apart from goalkeeper, probably. But yeah, brilliant. And I think he'd work in a 4 as well. He's good enough defensively. Okay, he hasn't quite got the height, maybe, but I think he'd be fine in a 4 as well because he's got all the attributes.
Yeah, I think that weird system that we played where he was effectively a right back anyway, with Chiquinho as that kind of hybrid role. That was like it seemed like a trial version of a back 4 with Jonny there, and he didn't let us down there.
In hindsight, would you have done it against Man City though?
Well,
if you're going to do it against Man City, do it against Norwich.
Yeah,
do it against Man City and not Norwich.
Yeah,
what the hell is that about?
Like, just if you're going to play, because we know we're going to be a bit more on the front foot. If you're going to play Chiquinho and as a wing back, try it against someone who hasn't got the best players. So I'm going to give him an 8, and the only reason I wouldn't give him higher is just
availability.
He's only played 13 games, but in those 13 games, I think apart from maybe the first 2 when he was coming back, where he was below par, after that, the wheels were in motion. Right, so as mentioned, the player he basically came in for was Nelson Semedo. Now, in my opinion, he was, up until his injury, probably a front runner for one player for the season. He probably wouldn't have got it behind Sarr, but again, I think for those 25 appearances that he made, I thought he's come on leaps and bounds and continued to from the first 6 months of his Wolves career where it was a bit rocky. Stu, you've always been a Semedo fan, haven't you?
Yeah. I didn't understand what all the fuss was about in the lockdown year where people were slating him. It's not, again, like Fabio, it's not his fault he costs so much money. And he comes in and shock horror, he takes someone a bit of time to adapt to this league when they've played in La Liga the vast majority of their life. These things happen. And he was always going to get better the more he played, which is what happened towards the end of last season after Christmas. He was great. And then this season he's pushed on. I don't think he was... The goals thing's always an issue. I know Gully tweeted about this earlier on today or yesterday, that the fact that Jonny's our highest goal scoring wing back and he's played 13 games is a bit shocking. So I think that's all that's missing from him though.
He doesn't play inside, does he? He plays outside. No. Jonny plays inside. He plays inverted. That's the problem, if you want to call it that.
He's got a decent cross on him when he wants to. It was almost like it was beaten out of him by Captain Handbrake last year. Like he couldn't go over the halfway line. He wasn't allowed, and you can see it this year where he's kind of pushed on, and he was overlapping and getting decent crosses in the box. Obviously, there was no one there, but that's not the point. I thought you're talking about 7.5. I think because of just his lack of goals.
Yeah, well, I was going to say that this is the first one we've probably been able to really kind of compare contrast. So you've said 7.5. So do you think he had a not as good a season or big as impact as Jonny then?
I'd have given him an 8, to be honest.
Yeah.
I was more than content with him, to be fair. I'm going to give Bruno a bit of props for this one, I think, because I think he sat him down and had a bit of a conversation with him, and he's one of those players who has played a lot better, under Bruno than Nuno, and maybe that's a little bit of settling down, But I think sometimes you've got to give some props to the manager occasionally, and I think this is one of those times.
Yeah, I think that the tactical tweaks helped Semedo a lot. And also having Kilman next to him as well, I think that helped him on that defensive side as well, which he wasn't actually that poor with last season. He just had a couple of lapses in concentration, personally. I'm going to give him an 8 as well, just because I think it was fantastic. First portion of the season, a really steady player. Shall we cap off our wing backs and go to Ait-Nouri, who I think, again, weirdly like Marcal, was a bit of a steady Eddie. And he clearly got quality guys, but didn't have as many of those star moments as I kind of thought he might do.
No, he's not. He's not really kind of. You look at his debut against Palace last year, and he was absolutely incredible. And you think, well, we've got something here, and he's never kind of got to them heights again. Strangely, I don't really know why. Because he's got, like you said, he's got everything about him to do that.
Yeah, he carries the ball very well. Probably out of the three of them, he carries it the best out of them. I think his output again could be better. Defensively, he's massively improved. When Bruno came in, there was talk of 4 at the back. I was concerned, to be honest, because there was a lot. If you look at last season, there was a lot of back post goals that I think he didn't follow his man and track his man, or he didn't block the cross for the other side, and it was a big fear of mine. I mean, obviously the 4 at the back never materialised, but I think now I'd feel a lot more confident playing him as a left back rather than left wing back.
I'd dig it out, but I did find you compare his stats from last season to this season defensively, and it's like there's 2 different players. And arguably that might mean he sacrificed a little bit of that in attacking enthusiasm, but he's clearly still got it there. And for one reason or another, I think the only worry I have with him is that fitness level, because for him to only play 23 games this season is a worry for me. And I know Marcal is, a senior pro and can play, but some of those have been through niggly injuries, or he's not played because he's played midweek and stuff like that. That might come with time, but it's a mark against him in my book.
We have seen this kind of the opposite, though, like players like Michael Owen and Rooney who were absolutely thrashed to death at a young age. And he has got that kind of explosive turn of pace about him when he wants. So maybe it is just a case of just managing him, and because his body's still growing. Maybe it is something to do with that. And when he
covers a lot of ground. He covers a lot of ground. It catches up with you at a certain point.
Covering a lot of ground. I mean, you only have to look at Liverpool at home, how superb he was in that game. I mean, Salah didn't have a sniff until that waste of space came on because he got injured. So
I was going to say, would you describe him, Stu, as how in American football you have they call them shut down or lockdown cornerbacks? Ait-Nouri is like that. When he has to play against a really high quality winger, or whatever you call it, he just shut them down really impressively, and they don't get a lot from it. What are we giving him for the season, though? Because I feel harsh, but I'm going to go 7, because I don't think he's had a good season as. So I don't think he necessarily had a bigger impact as Semedo and Jonny personally.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's marked down for. I think fitness is one of those things. In effect, his fitness has cost us 3 points, and he hasn't been on the pitch. So he cost us a point against Liverpool because Hoover had to come on.
Yeah.
And then was it the game before, a few games before against Leeds, he went off, and then Semedo had to go to left back, and then he gave away a penalty, I think. To do a reshuffle, which I hate when you're winning, to do a reshuffle of the back line. It never ends well. So I think that's a mark against him. So I'd go with 7.
7's across the board. Okay, so again, someone whose season dropped off because of injury towards the end, which was really upsetting, is Max Kilman. Again, someone who had the opportunity, was in a position for end of season awards. And I've done something differently on this one. You'll see if you've watched on YouTube, guys. Is that I've added in more of his stats because I saw his ones, the generic ones from FB Ref. I should probably give them a shout out, shouldn't I? In terms where I've just sort of massively stolen them, but he didn't look very good. And you compare his metrics to other centre halves in the league, and he holds his own against any other English centre half. Yeah, and it was a shock that he wasn't called up to those March internationals and then got injured.
He's got better stats than Ben White defensively.
Yeah,
yeah. So. And it's just really unfortunate. The game Southgate watched him. He had his worst two. Was it Palace one?
Yeah.
I can't remember the other one off the top of my head. That Spurs game away he was unreal, and he carries the ball. The amount of times he dribbles past people, and that's what you need. The way we play, because we, so ineffective up front, you need to take players out of the game. And when he carries the ball forward, he does do that really, really well. So I think, even there, you can see actually the progressive carries on those stats there, dribbles completed. For centre half, that's good going. And again, solid as a rock at the back. Generally, wins a lot in the air, blocks, tackles. So yeah, we've got to. I couldn't believe how much he's come on. I mean, for out of the academy as such, they've done well there.
I mean, if you were a true believer like me and Pricey were last year, and we were raving about him after his performance at Leeds last season as well, and you had people on here saying, "Oh well, look where he's come from. You can't. It's just a one-off and all this. We can't rely on him." Well, yeah, we can. And I think, funny enough, he dropped off when he was moved to the left-hand side.
Yeah,
his form never seemed to recover to the kind of. He would have been 10 out of 10 if he'd stayed at the level that he was, that he started the season at. But then, as soon as he was moved over to the left, and then he was moved back again, he never seemed to be the same player. And then, obviously, injuries and the Ukraine stuff caught up with him. So it's probably natural that he tailed off a bit. But it's just very odd that he plays on the so-called wrong side of defence and he's superb at it.
Yeah. It works for him, doesn't it?
Yeah, same with Bolly. Bolly always played better on the opposite side. He's right-footed, but he was always best on the left and always has been. It's strange. It's just a Wolves thing, I think.
Yeah. What are we going to give him out of 10 then?
I'm still going to go 8 because he was so good at the start. I mean, like I just said, he was challenging player of the season. The England stuff and everything. Just because he tailed off, like Stuart Jones in the comments there saying always thought Kilman linked up well with Semedo, like we mentioned earlier. They complemented each other really well. Yeah, he can't get any less than an 8. Surely.
No, I agree. Yeah, for me it's between an 8 and 8.5. So yeah, I'm happy to go along with 8.
I was going to say I went 8.5 because I think that first half of the season, the fact he was pushing for an England call up and. He's been let down by 4 games tops, and I think that's you can't almost ask for more from someone who was his first full season, for want of a better term, at this level. Yeah.
And I think it's the shifting that's cost him. It's probably form, probably. And I think defenders, they crave consistency. I think it's so important to keep it across the ball. You have the horses for courses and just stick to it when they're playing well. Don't mess around with it because you're asking for trouble, because it's all to do with organisation and position.
Exactly. And that's what, when codes and Kilman thrive on, isn't it? Right. So I think this is the last defender, if I'm not mistaken, but it's Roman Sace, who, again, stats-wise, it leads the way in terms of the amount of output, his progressive passing, the fact he chips in with goals, but his blocks, his tackles, everything that he does, it's really high on paper. But at the same time, I think it's similar vibes to Marcal in those that, all right, he has those moments where you go, I'm not, can send jets down your spine if you're not careful as a Wolves fan.
But then moments didn't come until after Christmas.
Yeah.
Up until then, when he was playing his best football for us, he was amazing. After AFCON, he's been like Eric Young levels for shit. I mean, he just has. Who knows why? Now this is going to be a hard one to score.
Because first half
he's
the
a complete opposite.
9, and the second half season you're looking at about 4 because he's been dog shit recently. And is that because he knew he was leaving? I don't know. I like to think it wasn't, but The penalties he's been given away. He didn't have any at the start of the season. I can't remember many mistakes at the start of the season. No. He had like the lead. He fucked up at Leeds a couple of times, just ballooning the ball into the air. The penalties. He got away with one at Chelsea as well, where he got tackled by Werner and they scored. And he needed to be taken out of the team. It's a tough one. But him and Dendoncker, they're absolute textbook definitions of squad players. They're not good enough. They're not good enough over 38 games. That's just fact. They're not going to be. They're going to throw in some stinkers. Bring him in for 10 games a season, no problem. I've got no problem with either of them hanging around for that sort of time. But you can't rely on them for 38 games. They're a squad player.
The fact that say 31 games. Dendoncker, I think, had 30 appearances as well, and they are. It's like their definition of being like 3rd/4th choice, and that there's a role for that in a football club. And Goody says it about Dendoncker. My things about Sace as well. It's similar that he ain't going to be the guy to necessarily carry forward. He has great leadership, and you see he's got the character. He's obviously captain of his national team as well, and that'll be a miss if and when he goes. Would either of you two give him a new contract, or do you think bite the bullet and invest in someone slightly younger with a bit more of a higher ceiling?
No, it's tough. I probably not, but as a squad player, fine, absolutely no problem. But then by keeping him, are you then almost taking the pressure off you getting a centre half? But I think his time's probably done. Like the team needs a refresh, and he's got to be one of the ones that probably goes.
Yeah, you can't perform like he did for 5 months and expect a new deal after that. At his age, he's been here 6 years. Everyone just needs a fresh start. What an amazing guy he is, all that kind of stuff, whatever. But it was the same with George Elokobi. He was a great guy as well, but he had to leave. So it was just the right time. Obviously, Stacey's a lot better, but it's one of them. You keep him around, then you stunt Mosquera's chances and his growth, and Totti as well. Yeah. So
I mean, my sort of thinking is, could you argue that, say, someone like Gomez has got a higher ceiling? Now, I don't. And you go, well, yeah, he's arguably pushing at that level anyway, and there's obviously gaps that need filling in his development, but I'm optimistic he's someone we can replace. Whereas with certain other players who are potentially on the way out, I'll be more anxious about replacing them. It's really difficult to score him because we've given 6.5 to Marcal, 7s to Coady. Do we put them on the line of Marcal or Coady? Because we can't go in between. It's a difficult one.
You've got to separate his first and second half of the seasons. It was like literally watching two completely different people. So it's really, really hard.
He was an 8. First half was an 8. Second half was a 4. So what did you do?
Split it 6.
6. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to go 6.5, but I don't quite know why. I think he's had about on par with Marcal in terms of.
You can't score him less than Marcal. You can't score him less than Marcal.
Yeah,
that's not fair. So it's hard to argue.
We'll go 6.5, but I don't think he's necessarily had a bigger impact as Coady. Then I think that's fair. I reckon. It's good. We're not going to go to more than half points, guys. Right, let's move on to midfielders. Because again, there's a few interesting ones in here, I think. So first up I have is Daniel Podence. Now, I love him. I love it when he plays for Wolves. And the thing that sort of stands out for me, for those watching on YouTube will see it, but 26 appearances, 14 wins and 9 losses. Like when he plays, we win. Now, when you compare it to like other players who've played a decent amount of games, like Semedo, it's really close to that wins and losses. But when he plays, we create and we score and we win. But he only played 26 games, and we need. We talk about. You talked about like Sace and Sace and Dendoncker play too many games for us for the quality they are. He doesn't play enough for the quality he is.
Yeah. Why is that doing that? You know, some of it is that injured line, I think. I'm not convinced by his mentality. I mean, I love him when he plays. He's great. Gets you off your seat. He's got a trick in the back. He's someone who can beat a man. He can potentially create something out of nothing. He probably should be scoring more goals for the position he's in. I think maybe a little bit more output. But it'd be in my best 11 if we could pick one now. It'd start for me.
That's a noise, Stu.
Stu doesn't agree.
I was going to say
that's putting Hwang ahead of him. Stu is.
I just don't. He just pisses me off. But it's just the diving and the theatrics and all the
the mentality.
That goes with it, and there's no need for it because when he's on it, he's brilliant. There's no question about that. But his output's not good enough. He doesn't do it enough, and no one can be actually, air quotes, injured all that much, and then just come back and be fine again. There's something there, and you can see him mouthing off on Insta and all the different things that he does. If we had to sacrifice, I know we're going to come on to him in anyway, but the whole front line is just shit anyway. But Podence, it's really hard because, like I said, he frustrates me more than anyone else because he has got it in him, and we've seen it that he's got it in him, but he hasn't shown enough. And yeah, he pisses the opposition off, and hence why we win so many games when he's there, because they target him and it leaves space for other people to mess up. But I don't know how you score this, because two goals and how many assists? Probably about three's the highest with Chiquinho, so it's not going to be more than that.
He did have a very good expected assists. But no, I completely get it, because he's like that proper number 10, isn't he? He's a true playmaker when he's on his game.
Yeah.
But
in cup games when he was
against crap opposition.
Yeah, that's what I mean. He's like the hook of his own player. And when Fabio had that kind of link up in them few games together, and you think, okay, this might be something to work on, but I don't know. I'm baffled.
Yeah. But the goals.
I always like technically gifted players, and he's technically gifted, isn't it? Okay, it can be frustrating, but he has got a lot about him. And go on, sorry, mate. I was going to say, Go on.
I will stop talking over each other. Right, you do it. Otherwise, I'm whacking the goal music on.
Yeah, we're going to go past our 3 minutes here.
Definitely. We're on about 5 minutes to play at this point, I think.
Okay, right. That lasted long. I thought you completely forgot what I was going to say anyway, mate, to be honest. But no, he's something that, if you need a bit of a spark, he could do it in a bit of a drab game. He could provide that little bit of magic that might unlock the door. And I think, teams need players like that. Can you build a team around him? Probably not. But I still think it probably would be my best 11 that we've currently got. Hopefully that'll change. But I think he would be.
I mean, for me, like, you're right. He's one of those players, which is why people fall in love with football. And like, you actually, you'll have kids wanting to play like Daniel Podence and do the tricks and stuff like that. But would you, if next season we go 4-2-3-1, which is what we all kind of hope and kind of assume or whatever, can he play that number 10 role? Can he play 32 games there?
I don't think he can play in the middle anyway. I think this is the biggest myth ever, that he can actually play in the middle. He starts out wide and he drifts inside. That's when he ends up in the middle. He doesn't start in the middle. And when he has started there, he hasn't been very good.
I'll say,
I'd put him on the left.
Yeah.
If we're going 4-2-3-1, I'd play him on the left.
Okay.
It can be, if Bruno's inverted wingers. I think he's one. Because he could play out wide, but play sort of on the inside. So I think there might be something in that. I think, and even I think at Olympiacos, and he was one of their best players, and he played out wide for them. If his best position was number 10, you play best player in the best position, don't you? So they played him out wide.
So tricky part then is what we give him out of 10.
The lack of goals and assists is you can't give it. It's like everyone's going to be scoring the same as Marcal at this rate.
yeah. 6.5 for me.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking as well.
I'm going to go for the same because he said that when he plays, we score, so he's obviously doing something. But the kind of same as Ait-Nouri, it's that lack of games, that true lack of end product. I feel like we're going to say end products a lot when we get past the next three players. So the next three we've got up are our three central midfielders because we made the baffling decision to only have three this season. Let's do Neves first. I mean, should we just put him down as a 9 and change on to the next one because he's probably going to go. It's going to be devastating. He's been fantastic. If it weren't for the last 6 games or whatever it was, but after he got injured, which hasn't helped, and he ain't been fit the last 4 games. He's been back anyway. He'd be tying with Saar Player of the Year. Would you say?
Yeah, I'd say so. Legend, icon. Don't put his picture up again. It's making me sad.
I know.
We'll just move on.
No. And again, his stats are solid as well. Let's say I'll put him down as a 9 because I think I've actually voted for a player for the season, to be honest, because we had a stage on the podcast where we're like, oh, who's your match? It's like maybe Neves for like every week for about 3 months. So next ones, I was going to say I can't really do it because you've seen it before, but for anyone watching on YouTube, we've got to compare and contrast for our next 2 players of who we think perform better. And, one, you could argue in terms of a lot of the metrics that you can measure a central midfielder on, one dominates more than the other. And surprisingly, player B in this is actually Dendoncker, the one who has got some significantly higher stats than Joao Moutinho. But let's talk Joao first. And then Dendoncker. Again, when he plays well, Wolves play well, and it is like watching, the old maestro. But there are certain points where those old legs have started to tire. Is that basically just because we have literally got 3 central midfielders? So
yeah, he shouldn't be playing as many games. I mean, put that up again. How many games has he played this season?
35.
35 out of 38 games.
Was it 3 games? And literally those 3 games he was out injured because he was out for the Spurs game. Was it the Spurs game he was out for? He had a hamstring injury, didn't he?
He's played more games than Neves. 30. Is he 34? He's nearly 36 now, isn't he? Yeah. Close to 36-year-old should not be playing 35 games in a mid-table Premier League side. He's a top man. Love him. He's been fine. He's not our biggest problem, nowhere near. But no, he can't play 35 games.
I was going to say he's probably had his best season for me. I thought he's been superb this season in his 4 years here. I mean, he was a breath of fresh air in our first year back, and you think, well, how is Joao Moutinho at Wolves? It just doesn't make any sense at all. And once you got kind of over that, and his goals at Old Trafford, which is like his trademark now. I think he's probably played better this season than he did in the first season for us, personally. But again, him and Neves should have been rotated. If we had any kind of common sense, which we obviously don't have anymore, they would have been used. He would have been used sparingly and rotated, so no one was completely knackered out.
Yeah, and
I was just going to say
Stuart Jones says in the comments, he's still playing international football as well, so he's
first choice.
Yeah. The fitness thing's a myth. He's one of the fittest players we've got. He sprints around like a madman for 90 minutes. It's more the legs, in fact, that people get around him a lot easier now. He hasn't got that turn of pace, and he can't. People just dribble around him now, basically. But his fitness thing is absolutely fine. His legs haven't got in that respect, not at all. It's more just that explosive turns and dribbles through. Well, I think his dribbles weren't stats aren't the worst. But again, output for goals as a centre mid, it's never been his forte. But that's not a problem. But when you combine it with the fact that he's next to Donker half the time and his output for goals is nothing as well, that's again where the problem sort of lies.
So I mean, in terms of twofold then. So what would you give him? What would you guys give him out of 10? And also, would you give him a new contract? Because I think the sticking point at the moment, as far as I can tell, is Wolves want to give him 1 year and he wants 2. What you guys thoughts? So on both of them, Stu, out of 10, and give him whatever he wants, or
I mean, I'd give him an 8. I thought he was brilliant this season. Yeah. And I think if he wants to, I think surely we could come to some kind of middle ground where it's 1 year with a second option in our favour. So,
triggered by the amount of games he plays.
Yeah, that's what I'd do. It's like if he plays more than 30 games, then he has to have the second year. I mean, that'd be more than fair for me.
Yeah. I'd agree. I think 8 out of 10, and then I'd be reluctant to give him 2 years if he's going to be on close to 100 grand a week, because if his legs actually do go in the first season, we're stumped.
Yeah, because I mean, remember it happened to Dennis Irwin. I mean, in the Premier, he was absolutely fine, and then about 4 months into the season, he just left. He just gone.
Yeah,
and you can't anticipate that kind of thing happening. So
I remember Gary Neville spoke about it. He said at the start of the season he felt fine, and then he had a couple of months where he just was like, "Shit, I'm done." It can just happen, you know. It doesn't matter how fit you are. 5 times undefeated.
Yeah. Out of 10, then are we going 8 across the board? That seems about fair.
I think that's
I think I agree. I'm happy with 8 because I think again for large parts he has been fantastic for us. Right, next up, a really tricky player to judge because again, like someone like Sace and Marcel are on paper are really solid pros and are almost quite stereotypical mid-table Premier League players, but doesn't always have a great rep with fans. Dendoncker. It's 6 out of 5 in it. Let's be honest, guys. He is the quintessential 6 out of 5 in T.
I mean, it's still the problem, which is ridiculous at this point. That in his 4th year, he's still playing him in stupid places. If you just leave him alone to the job that he's good at, that he's competent at, as being a defensive midfielder, and that's it. Not trying to turn him into Dave Edwards, not trying to turn him into Paul Scholes or any other kind of mad idea. Just leave him to do what he's best at. Look at that, blocks, clearances, pressures. Just being a pest and winning the ball back.
And then literally then doing like a little pass to somebody else, not moving it forwards. It's all
no problem with that whatsoever. Yeah. Like Carl Henry did for years, not a problem. But he's been played out of position so many times that if he's played out of position, you have to judge him on the performance that he's in that position. And when it's not his natural one, he's shit at it. It's not his fault, but he just can't do anything else. A
lot of the fans' frustrations of he misses so many good chances, and again, he's not. It's good that he's in those chances, but I mean, when the Chelsea one and then the Liverpool one, those are really good good chances. And how long it's taken to get a goal this season? But yeah, I completely agree. He's been, he's probably suffered the most through Fosun's reluctance to strengthen in numbers. Because I can't remember which season it wasn't last season, the season before, he was playing centre half all the time because they didn't invest in any centre backs. And then this season, he's had to play an attacking midfielder because we haven't got one. He's playing in this stupid right-sided attacking midfield role, and he's not that player. It's not his fault, but you can't play Moutinho there, and Neves isn't that player either. So what are you supposed to do? And it's not Bruno's fault. I'm not digging Bruno out for it because he's got literally no one else to play there. This one's on Fosun for me.
Yeah, and he's fine. He'll be there. He won't massively let us down. It doesn't look horribly out of place, but
you know what he is? He's the Belgian Neil Emblin. That's what he is.
Yeah. We'll take that. I think we'll take that. So what are you guys going to give him? 6?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So at the moment, the lowest we've given is a 6.5.
Oh, well, we know it's going to be lowest, so...
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all right. He's safe. Yeah, I think 6 is probably fair enough. But again, I'm not... Yeah, it's not... Again, I feel bad because it's not his fault. It's not his fault.
Yeah,
He's a number 6. He's a number 6 playing, playing in an 8 role, and it's not fair.
We have to judge on what we've seen, not on what he is and what he's not. So
yeah, I'll go with 6. I feel slightly bad for 6, but if he'd have had a couple more goals, then I think we'd be talking, and that would kind of oversee a couple of the flaws. So again, somebody like Jonny, who I didn't expect to have to put on this list, is Pedro Neto, with again similar amount of appearances to Jonny. I think they've both played 13. 1 goal. He was on the. He has the worst win to loss ratio of the games he's played. Bless, but for someone who I didn't think would have an impact or barely even play this season, like you could see it was starting to come back to those last couple of games, couldn't you?
I don't think we should be doing this because he's been fit for 20 minutes against Liverpool. He's worked his way up to match fitness in games because we've got no one else there. He's not the same player, is he? I know we're contradicting ourselves because we just say, well, we just judge Dendoncker on what we've seen. But with Neto, it seems a bit harsh doing it because he can't get really a high score, can he? Because he hasn't been very good. But again, his knee was broken. So what do you expect? It's going to take time.
And this is what makes Jonny's comeback so good as well, because Jonny's just come back and he had a ropey 40 minutes against Arsenal. Away, I think it was his first game back, and that is literally it. And then it was old Jonny. Neto's different. The good thing about Neto is he's been getting gradually better, for sure. I think Chelsea was very good as well, actually. Whereas you could tell he just clearly wasn't fit. I mean, he was blown out his arse when he came on for Leicester, and that was about 10 minutes, 15 minutes. But yeah, he's been getting gradually better, so that makes me feel really good about next season. I'm feeling good about Neto next year. Yeah,
I agree. It does feel harsh to judge him, but we're going to anyway, guys, because I'm horrible. And also
6 with an asterisk.
I was going to put him down for. I think 6 is fair.
6 /
people
asking the reasons.
It's like for the fact that they were mainly subs appearances as well in parts, but 6 or 6.5.
No, he can't be at 6.5.
That puts him on level with Sace, doesn't it? That means he's played. We rank him on high Podence, so we'll go 6. But I'll put a sad face next to it or something. Right, next one, bit of a sad face as well, is Jimenez, because
4. Just 4. He's probably had 4 good games all season long, really, and is at the level that we know he can attain. He's not with the same player, is he?
Does he deserve an asterisk next to his name?
Well, he's got half a head, so we know the reason why. I mean, ever since he had that thong with an eye patch on the side of his head, he's been much better. And against Neto at Liverpool, he was great. I thought he was really good. But there's been so few games where he's actually done anything at all. Despite being our top goal scorer and probably our highest assist maker as well. With slight input, he's just been really bad.
I think people are saying that he hasn't had the chances. I can think of 6, 7 chances throughout the season that old school Jimenez would have scored, no danger.
Yes.
That he's missed. So yes, he's in a team that isn't creating a great amount. However, he has had enough chances to better that goal tally for me. And if I don't know if you can put the graphic up again, Rich, but if you look at the top of the graphic is poor reading. Non-penalty goals. Oh yeah, Christ! One of the goals he scored 6 goals this season. One of those was a penalty. Shots total. It's not good reading those stats. I think generally it's like the further he is away from the goal, the opposition goal, the better he is. I actually think his hold up play is all right. He defends really well front post. His link up play is pretty good, but he's lost something in the box, unfortunately.
He's lost that predatory instinct that was the difference between us being mid-table and being 7th. And like it showed last season and it's kind of showed this year. You're sticking with your 4th, Stu?
No, I'm being a bit silly there. I think 5's probably fair. I don't think you can go any higher than that. But just because he's been so awful, and again, because he's kind of suffered like Kane did at the start of the season as well, playing so deep. But I don't know why we never exploited that. Like, why didn't he play with Fabio up front with him as in a kind of second striker role while he was getting back to normal? Why didn't we that? Why was that not tried? And that's on Bruno as well. But for his
one of his best games, yeah, you're absolutely right, because one of his best games I remember was Newcastle at home when he was playing. All the good stuff he did was about on the halfway line. And he fed Hwang those two balls. I think you're absolutely right. I think there's something in that.
Yeah, I mean that seemed to work well against Liverpool as well in terms of having, he was that not target man, but that link point for the attack for him to, take it on half turn and feed it forward, which was something we lacked from someone who'd be able to, pass it forwards.
Maybe that's what we need, like some kind of like Joe Linton style reinvention next season. Maybe play him in the number 10.
Oh yeah. I say have it as a 4-4-2 and have him drop slightly deeper for whoever to bounce onto. Tom, what are you thinking out of 10? Because I'm struggling because 5 feels harsh, but at the same time he's on number 9 and he's not delivered.
Yeah, I don't think you can go above a 5, can you? I don't know.
No,
5.5, like... maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to put it out. I love Jimenez. I love the bloke, and we know why he's bad, but it can't carry on. And there's a real problem. There's a real problem this summer for me, because you can't go into next season and gamble on Jimenez being your main striker.
Yeah.
Same with Fabio. So then do you get a third striker in, and then they might be both vying for one, all three vying for one position. Stunt Fabio's growth. Jimenez is unhappy. Do you get rid of one or both? You're not going to get rid of Fabio, so do you get rid of Raul? But it's a real conundrum that is for the summer for me.
Yeah, I think time's going to tell on that one. I wouldn't be awfully surprised if something happened. But next up, we have Fabio Silva. Again, it depends on what you look at. No goals, but we know how many of his appearances were, off the bench or called upon last minute, it felt like. But when he played and when he started, he improved. And similar to Neto in a way, like every game he plays, he seems to be a bit better.
Mm.
He's considerably better than last season. And I think as an 18-year-old, 19-year-old kid, that's almost what you got to do. He's not at the levels maybe we were hoping for and what his transfer fee suggested. And he had more goals last year. But I'd say he's a much, much better player this year than he was last season. And he deserves more starts than he got, particularly near the end of the season. When we had, in theory, nothing to play for and Raul wasn't on form, I don't get why he wasn't playing.
So what we give him out of 10?
I think that the nice thing for me before we do that, the fact that he got Player of the Month.
Yeah.
And knowing how stupid and thick our fans are sometimes, and they don't appreciate things that are not blatantly obvious in front of their eyes, like goals and like wonder strikes and whatever. To just appreciate the effort and the actual growth in Fabio Silva. Fair play, well done. At last, we've got a bit of achievement for us. But you can't. Again, he's a striker with no goals, and yet he hasn't had the chances. But he's better, so. I'm tempted to go the Marcel 6.5 again. Maybe that's a bit high. I don't know, but I just think he's been badly treated as well. Like Tom said, he should have had more chances.
Yeah,
I'd probably go 6 again. I think you could criticise an output on some players.
Yeah, I'd put him down as a 6 just because he hasn't scored enough goals, but which he hasn't scored any. And there were a couple of cup games where it's like it was great in that game against Sheffield United, like Podence. But if that was your chance to fill your boots, and unfortunately, it doesn't matter what metrics we put up. That is what a striker's going to be judged on. especially in our team, where that's where the goals should be kind of going. So I'll put Stu down for a 6.5 and us down for 6s. So we've got 3 more players to go. We have not kept to a time limit, but we all knew that was going to happen anyway. So first up, so I think all of the next
boy.
is the Trincao train. So the next few are all going to be, I was going to say, debatable / low. So yeah, we'll start with Trincao. I mean, I think he was someone who improved throughout the season, and I could see what he offered a team. But still massive flaws in his game. But he didn't look out of place even compared to our underperforming attackers.
Yeah. There's clearly a player in there for sure. I mean, he's piss weak, which annoys me. And he pulls out of a few tackles, which I don't like. Which you can sometimes get from people coming in abroad, and maybe you need to do a Neto special and put a bit of timber on. You wouldn't be spending. For me, Stu might say different. I don't think you'd be spending 25 million on him. I don't think if funds are tight. If you offered me an Adama swap, I probably would do it just purely based on the fact we're going to get nothing for Adama in the summer. And Trincao is probably worth more than what we'd get for Adama, if that makes sense. Say we're probably not going to get more than 15 million for Adama. Trincao probably worth a punt for 15 mil because it will drop, I think, one day. But is he suited for the Premier League is maybe a bit of a question mark.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I wouldn't spend 25 million on him in the circumstances anyway. But it's like you said, he's piss weak when at times. I mean, there's times though when his tackling is better than a lot of other players in that team. When he's tracking back as well. I mean, look at the tackles there: 71, interceptions, 83, pressures. When he won a couple of balls back that led to goals.
Yeah,
just putting pressure on players, and one against Everton was one of them, I think.
It was.
He's great. You can see like Bruno tends to Gully's really good on this, but he tends to pick Trincao when we're trying to have a bit of a high press because he is really good at that.
That's maybe why he hasn't played. Why he hasn't played the last few games because we haven't been pressing at all, have we? The last 10 games.
No.
But he's one of them where and people do get. Because I mentioned there's a group of people at the back of the stable who absolutely detest him and hate him with a passion. And like he'd be tracking back and then someone else would come on we know who comes on in his place. He'd do nothing and get no abuse whatsoever. And you think, you've got your scapegoats. There's nothing's going to change here with him. They've already decided they're going to hate him anyway, regardless of what he does. But like we said, there's a player there. And we could do something like, if the Adama swap was on, maybe loan him out then afterwards, and then make a bit of money on him that way, because we ain't going to get anything from Traore at all, are we? We all know this. It's just one of them things. But with a pre-season, if you wanted to come back and try again with a proper pre-season and the bulk up crew, maybe he's a different player. Maybe in a 4-2-3-1 he's better. Who knows?
I think he's got the potential to bring a lot to the table. As you both said, it depends on if he wants it, like Neto did. Because Neto, those first few games, it did feel like you need to get tougher and smarter. And like Neto massively benefited from lockdown, didn't he? Because I think he just hit the gym. And Trincao sort of needs that, and it's not like a little English. I think it's that you will get pushed about, and he seems to shy out of it. So again, it's a fitness thing. I get it, but he goes off after like 55 minutes, or someone really he goes into a company, doesn't quite win it. I agree with you both as well. You know what? If the swap deal's on for Traore, I'd take it. Not necessarily because I think Trincao's better than Traore, but I think financially it makes a lot of sense for us to tie down a player for 4 years as opposed to a player who we might lose in 12 months or nothing. It makes sense. Whether actually all parties agree to that, I don't quite know. But out of 10, Now, I can't quite decide whether he deserves a 6 or a 6.5. And still go 7, surely, Rich.
No, I mean, he's had about 4 outstanding games. And he's had some proper stinkers.
You can't put him above a 6. You cannot put him above a 6. I was thinking more like 5.5-ish, to be honest, if it was me. But and I don't mind it. I'm not a Trincao hater. I think it took him a while to sort of show us what he had.
What did we give Podence?
We gave Podence 6.5 and we gave Raul 5.5. And I was going to say
6. Trincao 6 seems fine.
Okay. Yeah.
Seems about fair.
Yeah, I'm good with that. So next one, we've already mentioned him just a bit. So Adama Traore, obviously only played half a season for us. One goal. There's very little actually to be honest, we need to say about Traore because we all kind of we'll go around in circles in terms of, he's frustrating, but he gets us up the pitch and X, Y, and Z. Do you think we suffered from him not playing for second half of the season in terms of our form, or was that more due to the fact that we're one player short from a senior point of view, or do you think we missed Adama Traore himself?
I think we missed. I know he wasn't pulling up any trees when he was here. Let's not kid ourselves. But I think we missed him. There's certain games, Newcastle away, a few that spring to mind where we were never going to score. How we were playing, we were just never going to score, and we needed something a little bit different. Okay, Adama's not the one in it. He's probably going to score you the goal, but again, he's someone who can take 3 players out of the game. I mean, he's a very, like, coin a Nuno phrase, he's so unique that it's so hard to judge him. But yes, we did miss him. I've got no doubt about that. And he hit a bit of form before he left, didn't he? But yeah, I know, exactly. Oh, and if anyone wants to check out the goal he's responsible for the weekend, I'd recommend it. It's pretty hilarious. I can't see Barca keep it, even if we offered a swap or this, that, and the other. I don't think they're going to want to keep him. He's not been good for them. He started like house on fire, and then he was terrible, and they never played. So they obviously don't rate him. And it's amazing how many managers get to that stage with him.
Yeah, Stu,
I'm bored of him just talking about him anymore. He gets us. You can't just have a player because he gets you up the pitch when he doesn't contribute anything else. And he's similar. You know what? He's a bit like Grealish has been this season for Man City. He's obviously good on the ball. He doesn't really do much, and he never has done much for us. You look at his stats for the whole time he's been here. He doesn't actually do anything other than beat 5 blokes, and then there's no one there to capitalise on it. And I'm just sick of talking about him now. I just want him gone and just be done with it. Would he go off the pitch? Probably. But again, no
one else would have been up next to him.
No,
that's a prevailing issue. And
it's been the case for 4 years, and it's never changed. And I just don't. I was like little Dan has said many times. Oh, he gets you out your seat. Well, he hasn't got me out my seat for 18 months because it's the same bullshit all the time, and nothing ever changes with it. So I think you got to put him on the same as Raul for me because he didn't do anything. But then when the transfer window was open for the 3 games before the start and then before January, he was amazing. So
yeah, another mentality thing for him as well. I think I don't think he looks great on the pitch, and they talk about being a good pro and stuff. I'm not sure I buy that.
And again, he didn't want to be here, so all the hypotheticals of we missed him, it doesn't matter because we wouldn't have had him anyway.
And the penny's not going to drop with him. There's always talk all the years. It goes, oh, well, what if we sell him and then he becomes a world beater? He's not going to be a world beater. People don't worry about it. So maybe it is, cut a lost time, to be honest.
So do we rank him higher than Trincao or same sort of level? So
5.
Yeah, I think it's 5.5 or 5, to be honest, isn't it?
5.
Yeah, maybe I'd squeak a 5.5 out of it, but it can't be.
I'm going to go 5.5 because actually, again, it's so bloody frustrating because I'm thinking back to those first few games of the season. It's like he was having all these chances, but he was also one who was missing all the chances. So I'll go 5.5 because I'm nice. Right. Last player who's played more than 10 games is Hwang. Look, he got 5 goals for us. Admittedly, 4 of them were in a purple patch. Not going to lie, the stats and his percentiles don't make great reading, to be honest, in terms of what he actually contributes. For me, he is a fox in a box. He is a poacher. Does he offer you a lot more than that? No. Is that a big issue playing in, 2022? Yeah. You can't have someone who's just a decent finisher.
You missed the big stat off your stats thing. It's the revenue stat.
Oh yeah,
but it's clearly the stat that matters when it comes to Hwang. Social media presence, revenue. Oh god, I mean the stat from the weekend. What was it? 36 touches, and he gave the ball away 20 times. That is unbelievable. I can't get over that. It's ridiculous. I remember the one he literally just ran the ball straight out of play. Like it was like a FIFA thing. He just literally just ran straight, didn't see the line or something. I don't know what. It's like someone's gone Space Jam on him. It's mad. He wasn't brilliant when he first started. He was okay, and his finishing was good. But then I don't know what the hell's gone on. Yeah. And why does he keep playing?
We do cakes and cookies. That's what he keeps playing.
It's cookies and social media.
Or he's sucking him off, and that's what he really hasn't said. But I mean, he's literally the worst player of the whole season, isn't he? That's a bit about the bush. He's shit, and he has been since his injury. Again, we can only judge what we see on the pitch, circumstances, whatever. But he's absolutely awful. I mean, the fact that we got our own players laughing at him when he did that nonsense of trying to keep the ball in. I don't even know why he tried to slide for it anyway. At Liverpool,
it was so badly timed. That was it for me. Like I couldn't quite get my head around why he did it when he did it. Like it just didn't make sense, did it? But yeah, I mean, for me, he's great at running in behind. Like his goal against Arsenal, like that's where you need him. The goals against Newcastle as well. That's what he's designed for. But you say since his injury, apart from that Arsenal game, I can't remember many times that he's basically peeled off the last man, or we've created those opportunities, and that might be teams have cottoned on to us. But I don't think it is. I think it's a reflection on our team in general, but also him as well. And like the stats don't lie when you look at his career, do they? What should we give him?
I mean,
go on, Stu.
Stu's going to turn to Craig Revel-Horwood now, isn't he?
I mean, I was going to say I don't know who that is, but yeah, I do, sadly. I know Gully's trying to pull me up on this and me saying that I've got a bit of first touch with him. And we'll put this out on socials over the summer because we will do this over the park. And me as a 38-year-old fat man will prove this again in video form. How can you give him above a 4? You just can't. He's the worst player we've had all season by an absolute mile. Even worse than Hoover. And that's saying something. 4.
Yeah. If he starts...
That's being generous because of his goals.
We've got him there now. He's going to stay, isn't he? We ain't going to get shot.
Who's going to want him?
Yeah, exactly. So if he starts the first game of next season, I'm going to pump. I'm going to go mad. I'm absolutely mad.
I feel like I'd be being too positive in a way if I gave him 4.5.
Yeah, I'll go.
Yeah, the lowest me and you, Tom, I think we gave 5.5s out. And I think that you could argue, who do we give 5.5s out? Traore and Raul. And I think both have arguably had bigger impacts this season, maybe.
He makes Traore's touch look good.
Yeah,
like he can't. His second touch is a header. It's unreal.
Yeah, it's so. Yeah, we'll go for. I was going to say not a slight down note. So two last ones we're going to cover, and then we're going to wrap up, guys. So there were a few players who didn't make more than 10 appearances. I thought 10 was a good number to kind of 25% of the season. So we had Ruddy, Hoover, Kundal, Chiquinho, and Gomez, who appeared less than 10 times. Ruddy, we kind of know his situation, things like that, and what he brings to the table. Kundal only played, I think it was 4 games, 2 off the bench off the top of my head. So again, potentially one for the future. I'd be interested to see if he gets a loan next season. The 3 main ones are Hoover, Chiquinho, and Gomez. Though I mean, that literally it is almost like a keep, loan, and bin off. And I struggle to see a future for Hoover at Wolves, to be honest. I feel like we need to try and make a bit of money on him at this point, because we've got the strength in depth at left back and left wing back and at right wing back now. So I don't see where he fits in, because I don't think he's a centre half either, frankly.
He'll be third choice right back, won't he? So you just got to get rid. If Bruno's there, then he's got to go, because he ain't going to play. He could do with like a move to like, I don't know, Ajax, PSV, somewhat, Dutch league. He probably do quite well, but he needs to go.
Yeah, Chiquinho. Again, there's a lot in the media. I think Bruno was talking about whether he should go out on loan next season. What do you guys think, or is it going to be more dependent on who comes in rather than his futures? I guess sort of tangentially linked to potential signings more than anything else, isn't it?
I don't think absolutely nailed on starter. Let him grow and develop with us rather than anywhere else. Yeah, he's raw and he's a bit crazy, but I'm so sick and bored of all this, of just players like we've already mentioned, like Podence and Hwang and Traore, who just do fuck all, and apart from flitting little bits and bobs here and there. Chiquinho doesn't care. He doesn't care. I mean, he runs and he crosses. Yeah, a lot of them are not going to land, but at least he tries. And the fact that he equaled our record assists of 3 in 78 minutes over 2 games, outrageous. And
he's got good crossing.
He did what it came up in the comments there. I mean, he did more in these 3 or 4 appearances this season, time wise, than Traore did in half a season. He's just
it's hard to argue against that. Yeah.
I can't understand all this stuff today, but people say, "Oh well, he's there, more assists in 68 minutes than Adama in 2 seasons." Absolute farce. And you can't, just because he gets you up the pitch and he beats foot. But Chiquinho beats people as well, and he takes people on, and he's already strong, which for a guy who's built like that, I didn't expect. And he did it against Chelsea.
He's not like he's a teenager as well, is it? He's actually he's early 20, 22, something like that, 23 maybe. Yeah. So he's not even like he's some teenager that needs to learn his trade. He's of age.
He's 22, which I think we all kind of think he's younger than that, but he has got a bit of experience beyond his belt, and I think that might deceive some people that he say like, he's got grown man strength or whatever. But actually, it's because he is, compared to, let's say, Luke Kundal. I know they've got very different body types, but I get what you mean. Like that, he's physically imposing. He's not sort of shirked out of challenges or anything like that. All the notions, let's say, like we have against Trincao, he hasn't got that fear. He doesn't look like he's, he doesn't like stepping off the accelerator or anything like, I feel like if someone goes into, chop him down a la Traore, Chiquinho just goes, oh, well, let's keep doing that then. That's clearly working. I'm just going to keep bombing. Whereas, Traore and Trincao get a bit upset with it and go into their shells, which is the exact opposite that you need. You need them to keep pushing it. So it's going to be interesting, I think, what happens with him next season. The other one is Gomez, who, I'd be interested in. Do I think he should be first, one of our first 2/3 centre halves? No. Would I have him 4th or 5th choice? Definitely. I think that's fair. isn't it?
Again, I wouldn't. I'd put him straight in there. He's done enough for me. I mean, he was probably our best player against Liverpool the weekend. He was excellent.
Mm.
And then look who he was up against as well. And he put himself in a position where he should have got a penalty and all. And you think he's learned his stripes in. It might not be a good European league, but it's still a European top flight league in Switzerland. He's still playing against professional teams. He ain't like playing like park players. So when other teams do this, when other clubs like blood players, like Elise, played for Reading, went to Palace, straight in the team. After played a cup game, stayed in the team. Oh, he's wonderful. When we do things like this, he needs a loan, he needs to develop. Why? Why do we have to persist with this shit all the time and not give kids a chance? When the kids have had a chance, like Kilman, look what's happened.
Yeah, my thing is you just want them playing to develop. I don't really mind where it is. The last thing I'd want for Gomez necessarily is for him to only play the cup games or whatever, because he's done more than enough to prove he can play at this level. It's just whether the rotations there and stuff like that for him to be able to do it, because I know it's tricky, and at the end of the day, Wolves will want to make a profit on him.
I mean, he's got the attributes though. He's quick. Yeah. He's strong. He looks decent on the ball. There's a lot to like. I think he might have a little ruck in him now and then, but you're gonna when you're young.
I can't remember who described it as this, but he gives off a bit of Ella Kobe vibes.
That was me.
Yeah. I was gonna say I can't remember who it was.
Yeah.
He just doesn't need, like, you see how he goes thundering into tackles, and if he plays, all right, let's say he plays 20 games, 25 games for us next season, he will be able to play more than that, but he'll have a suspension because there will be a red card in there. I'm telling you, I won't be like, violent content. It'll just be from flying into a tackle, like the same like a Sace or whatever. But yeah, I'm interested to see his development.
He reminds me a bit of how Bolly was in the Championship, where he just was fearless and he just didn't care. He reminds me a bit like that. And I mean, Bolly probably had 3 good games anyway. We even mentioned Bolly.
No, I think I skipped Bolly. That's bad, isn't it? Poor Bolly.
I mean, he probably had 3 good games, and then the rest he tailed off a bit. And 2 at the start, and then again against Liverpool. And he always seems to play well against Liverpool, weirdly enough. But yeah,
shop window.
I wouldn't be shocked or bothered if Bolly left while just talking about him. But totally, I don't know. There's just something about it. The whole club has gone stale. We all know that we're not going to spend money, regardless of people slagging me off. Oh, you don't know? Well, we'll see how right I am again for the 3rd year. That we'll spend 20 million net unless we spend the Neves money. That won't be on a centre half because we haven't bought anyone since we bought Bolly for the first team. So
realising that I've managed to not include my Willy Bolly graphic on StreamYard, and I can't be bothered to look awkwardly at the camera, what would you quickly give Bolly? Because he did make 10 appearances. Would you give him a 6? Or less?
I don't know, 5.5.
5.5, yeah.
Yeah, I think
he was another one like Jonny. He came back and it was like he's never been away, and then he was like that again the week after, and then after that he just knows.
He's had 2 good games.
That Norwich game was painful,
awful.
He was
good
bad.
Against Watford, worst team in the league. Well, one of, and he was good against Liverpool. So literally curtain ended it. Last one we're going to review. He isn't a player, but it's probably the one we'd probably have to spend most time with, which is why we're leaving it an hour and 20 into the show, is Bruno. So I don't mind how you break it down, but what are you giving him? Not the team, the manager himself. So let's talk tactics, how he's with the press, the players, whatever. How would you round that up into a lovely number?
It's the Sace problem again, isn't it? You've got to split. Yeah. If you're judging the first half or first maybe even 2/3 of the season, it's an 8 or a 9. And then the last third has been like a bloody 3. Some of the selections he's made have just I'm bored of talking about Hwang now, but let's leave that to one side because he picks 10 men every game. Some of the bizarre things about playing Jimenez on the right, or the change ups that he's done occasionally, where he's just shook up the whole team for no reason. Playing Hoover, out of nowhere, just brings him in from the cold, plays him, and then bollocks him. As soon as the game's finished. It's really tough to judge for me. And again, I think a lot's to be said that he's played the hand he was dealt, and he was playing it bloody well before January, and then now not so much. And it was quite a good point that the other Tom made after the Norwich game. I think there's only so much you can start having a go at players. I mean, we all like an honest manager, and sometimes when you're not pulling the weight, it's great that they called upon it, but I don't think players react to that well if he's doing it consistently, especially they're all mates. It does seem like a reasonable dressing room, or at least it did. And then if you've got your manager criticising you in the press relentlessly, I don't think players react to that very well at all.
Yeah, I think it's sometimes the case that if you're calling everyone else a dickhead, chances are you're a dickhead, and you can't. Parts of his honesty I really enjoy. There are other parts when, like the Hoover thing, like that there was a little bit that didn't sit right with me, because I thought that shouldn't, however much he deserved it, it sets a bit of a precedent, and it might, they say everything, say like it's a strong locker room in terms of what they want, but that tests it, and I think that is a bit of a catalyst. I've put down 6.5 because I literally went bang through, either side. You give them an 8 or 9 for the first half of the season, and arguably probably a 5, if that. Because there have been questionable things. How many of the questionable decisions do you put down to the issues that he noted in the first half of the season as well? Talking, he wanted a bigger squad, and then we get injuries, and he's playing around with it. Say that, playing Raul on the wing, as Paul's saying in the comments. It's on Bruno, that decision, because we'd have had players like Trincao available. We'd have had whoever to come in. Even play Chem Campbell there. Like, play your your square pegs in square holes. But it's tricky. Do you reckon you can put a number to it, Stu?
It's probably. I don't think it'll be what people think I'd say. I mean, the problem is as soon as you start saying, what would you have taken at the start? Would you have taken this at the start of the season? You kind of think, well, as soon as you put a caveat on it, then it's gone shit. So, we have got to think as well that he's had 18 months as a first team manager before he came here. That's like 6 months more than Super Rob Edwards had before he's taken over at Watford. And you think, it was with Benfica, and he's been a coach a long time. His in-game management has been questionable at times. His selection's been questionable at times. Some of the tactics have been weird and odd, but look how many players he's improved beyond what we thought they were capable of. And he has given certain ones like Kilman a chance. I mean, maybe because he had no choice. And he did for a certain period of time make Nuno's bunch of wasters from last year actually perform. But again, it comes down to the whole thing of if he is the way he is. I mean, he's funny with the press, and he seems very Mourinho-like in that kind of sense, and slagging players off in the press like Mourinho has done. It's one of them things where you can only do so much, like you said, Richie. You can only do so much for so many times before it gets boring, and that seemed to be what happened after the Hoover incident. Which, again, I backed him up because that was a pathetic performance what he did, and he needed bollocking in the press. Who really cares? Because we all saw it anyway. But I think overall, it's all kind of ifs and buts of next season now, because we saw this at Benfica where he couldn't he couldn't turn around the slide and he ended up losing his job from it. He hasn't turned the slide around here either. And in that Norwich performance, I saw coming. I'm still going to say it's 7 because all things considered, he had the best keeper in the league, keeping us in the top half of the table. But with the squad that we've got, how bad it is, when you look at it, we actually look at it not on paper, because on paper, that front, we all talked about at the start of the season, there we are, our front line's frightening, we got to batter everyone. Well, no, they're shit, all of them. As the scores have said, I mean, you look at where the numbers are high, and it's in defence. It's no surprise there. So with what he's had to work with, I think he the minor miracles, and he was helped out with Jose Sarri in goal as well. Keeping the score down. We don't score goals. We haven't scored. We didn't really score goals in the Championship. We won that. How many games did we score over 3? Maybe the 4 against Bolton, 5 against Bolton, and then the Leeds game. I don't think we scored over 3 more than a team as dominant as that should have. So we've never been a team under Fosun who've had goal scorers as such and have been a free scoring team like Leeds or whatever. We've been built like this to be solid. So to change that whole mentality to actually go and attack, it's never going to happen overnight, and especially just with 1.5 players in Trincao and Hwang. So I want to give him a 7. It still doesn't mean if he was replaced, I'll really be bothered. But I think overall, a 7 is probably okay.
Yeah, I think you look at the season as a whole. It's hard to disagree with that.
Yeah, I think that's fair. You say, like, you could argue, say, first half season's a 9, second half season's a 5. Met in the middle. Yeah. We've gone for a 7, where I think I'd say almost an optimistic point to end it on, because we will be doing hopefully another show in a few days where we're talking about again the season as a whole and looking forward to what we think Wolves need to be doing in the summer as well. And we'll talk about Bruno, I guess, within that in further detail. Big thanks to everyone who's tuned in live and also listened and watched it back as well. Great to have people in the comments as well. Really enjoying the interaction on today's show as well. Really great to see the engagement. Thanks to our sponsors, Pixel Yeti Media, and of course 90 Min Football Network. Make sure you check us out on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Wolves Fancast. And until next time, it's goodbye from Stu.
Hala Madrid.
It's goodbye from Tom.
Vile.
And it's goodbye from me. See you next time.